Hi everyone, this deceptively simple effect was spotted from After Effects from a tutorial that Dope Motions put out some years back. I just stumbled on it and I figured we could actually do this. Like what you see? Let's get to it. So let's just go through our normal motions under Effects, bring in a Fusion Comp. This Fusion Comp, I want to make the size of this Fusion Comp to be 10 seconds. So I press Ctrl D, bring up this pop-up menu, type 10, semicolon, 00, enter. So we have 10 seconds. Put the playhead on there and let's go to the Fusion page by clicking on this. Now let's bring the media out to the side. We are going to do that effect in two ways in this video. Let's start with the first one. Let's bring in the text plus node. Drag the text plus node to the left viewer. Let's just type mad. Let's just change this to Gilroy. Go to image, uncheck auto resolution, and let's reduce the height of this so that it just covers only mad. That should do. Maybe a little lower so it's kind of close. Okay, so we have this. So we bring in a background node, drop the alpha of the background node to 0. Bring in a merge node, connect this background to the merge node, the background input of the merge node, and connect the text to the foreground of this merge node. Drag the merge to this viewer. So we see the mad just sitting in the middle. Now for this merge, we just go to edges and click on wrap. So we see mad duplicated across this. So bring in a transform node, connect this to the transform node. We will get to the reason for this transform node subsequently. Now let's bring in a shape 3D node and connect this to the shape 3D node. Let's drag that to the right viewer. And for this shape 3D node, under inspector, change the shape to cylinder. You see the cylinder is curving the text in the wrong direction. So what we're going to do is go to this transform that we have here. Go to the angle here and type 90. And then we have it now round the circle the right way. We go to the shape 3D. The base subdivisions, let's just increase that so that we have something really smooth. Then we go to transform tab and then we change the X value here to 90. So we already have the makings of what we want. And we want it to be rotating like so. So what we do here is we just right click on this on the Z value. I go to expression and I type time. It should be in small caps. So I type time. So we've done the first one. We need to put the one in the middle. So what we can just do is copy the whole of this. Let's paste it up here. Let's drag that here. We can delete this background. We can use this same background to connect to the background here. That's the beauty of the node tree. You can use the same node to, once it's the same value you need, you can connect it to that. Now for this text, I'm going to change this to resolve. Now the size of this text, I'll change that to 0.15. I'm going to change the color of this text to red. Then I'm going to go to the image tab here. Let's drag this to the viewer. You see that it doesn't cover the text just fine. So I'm going to go to this image tab and increase this a little bit till we get to something comfortable. Say maybe 150. 150 looks okay. So if we drag this merge to the viewer, we see we have this going. And what we try to make sure of is to make sure that we don't have the spill. You see there's a slight spill here for the next result. So I'm just going to go to this and increase it a little bit to avoid that spill at the edge. There's a little spill here still. So I'm just going to go here. Let's just say we type 152. That goes away. This goes away. Let's make it 153 just to be on the safe side. Okay. So we have no spill at the edges. Good. Now, if we go to the shape 3D and drag that here, so we have resolve already done first. But if you look at it here, it's a little too close there. So I'm just going to go to this shape here. I'm just going to, let's say, reduce it a little bit like that. So that join there looks good. I'm going to go to controls and reduce the radius to 0.65. Now I bring in a merge 3D node, this here, bring that in here, connect this here, and connect this other shape 3D here. Let's drag that to the right viewer. So we see we have this going. Now I need to go to the shape 3D. The radius here should be 0.65. The radius of this one for mad should be 1. So I click on it to make it 1. So we have this. If I hold down shift, I can move around and we see what we have. Let's move to the front here. But right now, if I bring in, let's just bring in the renderer 3D and connect it directly and drag this renderer 3D here. You'll see we have it facing the wrong direction. So what we do is we click on here, shift spacebar, we bring in a transform 3D node, add that, and then for this transform 3D node, I just type 90 here, and then it faces us directly. After this, I'm going to click on this, I'm going to bring in a merge 3D node, then click on an empty space, shift spacebar, bring in a directional light node, connect that to merge 3D. Now for this directional light, I want to -45, for the Y -5, and then for the Z -15. Now before we put on all that, in fact, let's just bring in an image plane. I want to give this whole thing a background. So I'm going to bring in a background node. Let's drag that to the left viewer. I'm going to click on here and pick gradient, change it to radial. Change the stats X value to 0.5. And then for this color here, I'm going to click on here. Let's just pick a random color. Let's pick something like this. Okay, almost close to black, like so. Click on there. Then for this other color, click on it here and click on this value. Pick something close to what we picked before and pick something really close to black. And then we have this sweet looking thing. Then we can connect this background node to the image plane and connect the image plane to this merge. You see the image plane sits there. So for this image plane, let's just increase the size. I go to transform tab. I'm just going to increase the size so it fills the screen, something like that. Then I go to renderer 3D, change the renderer type to hardware, and click on lighting. I don't tick shadows. So this image plane, I need to move it back. So I'm just going to click on the image plane. I'm going to move it back so it's behind all of what is happening here. So this ones can breathe. Right, so let's even drag this merge 3D to this left viewer and hold down shift and look around to see that the image plane is positioned properly. Holding down shift, I click and I drag. So you'll see that the image plane is still close. I'm going to move the image plane back further. Just move it back further like so. Yep. Then I may have to increase the size to cover that. So that covers the whole thing here. So just increase this to maybe 7. Yeah, that looks good enough. You'll notice that this mad is kind of squashed up. So to avoid this squashed up looking thing, and you see there's a bit more space here than there ought to be. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go to this text. I should maybe reduce it a little bit. This is better. 90, just say 98. No, 98 is not good. 96 appears to be a good thing. So now I don't want this text to be so squashed. So I could go to transform here, uncheck the size and increase the width a bit. So it looks more like the normal size. Like so. Resolve looks okay. Or I could just go in there too and just tweak it a little bit, make it look a little better. Yeah, that looks a whole lot better. So now that we have all that set up, the next thing we want these things to be rotating. So I go to transform here. So I go to the shape, go to transform. The first one I did was time. I copied it here. So I'm going to go to transform again and just put a minus in front of the time expression here. So they rotate in different directions like so, right? Then what I want to also do is a situation where this whole thing keeps rotating around the y-axis. So I'm going to go to this transform 3D, and I'm just going to make it be rotating like so. To make it happen, I just right click on this, click on expression, and type time. Shouldn't be caps, should be small letters, time. And also, just to jazz this up a little bit, let's go to the beginning. At the beginning, I make sure that, let's just go to maybe frame, let's say frame 50, and keyframe the Z value. Then go to frame 0 and zoom in till we can't see it again, maybe 3.2. Now for this transform, let's go to spline, go to Z offset, click on zoom to fit, click on an empty grid, Control A, right click on it, go to ease, out cubic, close spline editor, and let's drag this to the viewer and let's play it back. So we have this. So I don't like the fact that it hits before it started turning. I want it to start turning as it hits. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to this place, go to keyframes, expand this, zoom to fit, and probably move this further to like 70, like 90. So I close the keyframe, I go back to spline editor, I click on zoom to fit, Control A to select all the keyframes, right click and ease out cubic. So let's play it back. You see that it kind of plays smoothly because this is not a very heavy effect at all. Something like this is what I wanted. See how beautiful it is. All right, guys, so that's the first option for creating this. There's another way we could do this. So we go to the close spline editor. Let's just drag to another part of the node grid. Let's pull the media out here. And let's bring in a text plus 3D. Bring another, no, let's just start only with this one. Now we type mad, right? Mad. Let's change it to Gilroy. I like Gilroy. Let's drag this to the left viewer. I set the size of the text small, like 0.34. Now for the text node, let's go to extrusion and set this to like maybe 0.05, maybe not too much, 0.02. Then the bevel depth, set to 0.005, bevel width 0.005. If you pull this to the viewer, let's zoom in a bit. So we see we have that text in there. Bring in a duplicate 3D, shift spacebar, duplicate 3D. Let's drag that to the viewer. I want this duplicate to have about 10 copies. Then I want to now separate them. So I'm just going to go to Y offset. No, it's too much. Like that. Okay, that looks okay. So we have this whole thing here, 10 copies. Now we go here, shift spacebar, bring in a bender 3D. Drag that to the viewer. In fact, let's drag that to the right viewer. We're done with this one. We shouldn't be seeing it. So we go to Bender 3D. We see if we bend it, it's looking weird. Double click to reset. Make sure we click Group Objects. Then we bend it. It bends forwards and backwards. So here we just bend it. Let's turn it by holding down Shift and holding down the left mouse button. Like so. Then I bend it till it just about touches. Let's zoom in. By holding down Control, middle mouse button, and scrolling. So that looks okay. Next thing we do is we bring in the transform 3D. And if you look at this transform 3D, I drag this to the viewer. And I decide to now rotate this. If I want to rotate it, you see it rotating at the wrong point. Double click on this to reset it. Let's go back to the Bender 3D. Make sure you drag center down to this. So this just stays down there. So even if we go to this transform and drag this to this viewer, it is rotating around that particular axis there. This is the front of our viewport. So what we're going to do is move this in to be somewhere in the middle here. So I'm going to go to this transform. I'm going to expand pivot, and I'm going to go to the Z pivot and set this to minus 0.29. So if we do that, if you now rotate around the x-axis, you see it's a bit better. Not perfect, but we can work with this. Let's just add 9, and let's rotate it again. This is better. I'm just going to right click on this X value expression, and we just type time. Okay, so we see it just keeps rotating, but we do one more thing. Shift spacebar, replace material 3D, and then we bring in my favorite shader, open effects under templates, expand fusion, click on shaders, bring in the chrome shader. Connect this to this replace material, drag that to the viewer, so we have this shiny looking stuff. Then after this, we can bring in a transform node, transform 3D node. Now for that transform 3D node, we're going to do a bit of animation. We're going to go to frame 0, set this value to 3.5, keyframe it, go to frame 70, set this value to 1, go to Y rotation. Let's go to frame 0, keyframe it, Y rotation. Then we go to frame 80 and set the Y value to minus 15. And then we're practically done with this. Let's make this a single viewer. Close effects. So that's the first part of it. Then we do for resolve. I just copy this whole thing and I paste. Let's drag this chrome down here. Now for this chrome here, let's just set the diffuse color to blood red and click OK. And let's just reduce the phase and strength a little bit. Then we have, drag this to the viewer, we have this red. Maybe the phase and strength a little bit. Yeah, something like that. Then I'm going to change the text to resolve. So now that we have this, let's bring in a merge node. Let me move it closer. Connect this to the merge node, connect this to the merge node. Drag that to the viewer. See, both of them are sitting in the same size plane, so I'm just going to have to adjust the one for resolve. So let's go to duplicate, change this duplicate to 6, and then the size reduces considerably, so you have a smaller size. But you will notice something here. If I hold on shift, and you see this is joined at this point. I want it to move to the center. So I'm going to have to go to transform, this transform here, and set a different pivot for the Z value here. So I'm just going to move that and go to Z pivot and set that pivot to minus 1744. Not quite. So I'm just going to have to move that in a bit. So I'm going to go to that Z, this one to minus 114. Okay, that looks perfect. So we have minus 0.114 here, and then it's perfect. And then if we rotate this, it's kind of smooth. So I'm going to right click on this, click on expression, and type minus time on this instead. So small caps, minus time. So now if we view this, you see they both are moving in opposite directions. So the next thing we do is we adjust the transform for this. You know, we did a transform thing for this one. So for this one, I'm just going to go to the keyframes for it, expand it, and I want this Z offset for this one to start at 0, but finish up at frame 60. So I'm just going to drag it to frame 60, stop it there, 60, yep. Like so. So we leave the Y rotation as it is. Now for these two keyframes for the transform, I'm just going to click on the spline editor. I didn't want to do it yet. I want to do it for all of them at the same time. So I'm going to click on zoom to fit. So all of the keyframes are showing. I'm going to click on this to select all the keyframes. Right click on a blank part of it, go to ease and go to out cubic. Close spline editor. Now what we want to do is now we want a situation where as this comes in, it has a background. So I'm just going to bring in an image plane. So we're just going to use the same thing we did here. Copy this, and paste that in here. And let's bring in a merge node. Connect this to the merge node. Connect the image plane to the merge node. Let's just bring it together. Oops. I'm going to bring in the same directional light I used here. Copy. I'll paste that here. Connect that here. Then bring in a renderer 3D node. Connect this here, and for the renderer 3D, change it to hardware renderer, the renderer type to hardware renderer. And then for the output channel, I want to output vector. Then I want to select lighting. Maybe I want to select shadows too. Then I go and drag this to the viewer, and then we have this. This looks a whole lot more dramatic than the other one, right? So what we can do, we can jazz it up a little bit. So we bring in, click on here. We've exported, one of the output here is vector, so we can bring in shift spacebar, bring in a vector, motion blur, this particular node here, add it, and connect another output here to the green input here. We can leave the default value scale here to 1, kind of like the way it looks a bit dramatic. Then after this, we can do something I've been liking to do these days. Bring in a raised node, and then we drag that to the viewer. Oh gosh, this is stupid good, man. So, but I don't want it to be that much. So I'm just going to go here and reduce the, yeah, a little bit like so. So it just has that dramatic look about it. Oh god. Anyway, so that's it. We're done. So we'll connect this to the media out, and then you see we can play it back. This transform here, if I click on this, drag this to the viewer, it's supposed to go from 90. My bad. This 2 is supposed to go from 90, not 0. Okay, so we're going to replay that. So it's from 90 to minus 15. Okay, it's because when it gets here, I should be, something like this is what I should be seeing, like that. Okay, so let's just play it back again and let it cache, then we allow it to play smoothly. Right now it's rendering and all that. Stupid sick. And that's it, guys. That's just what I want to show you today. It's pretty sweet stuff. I like it. Hope you loved it. Hope you got 1 or 2 tips in here and there from the whole thing. And thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. See you in the next one. This was cool. This is smooth. I like this stuff. See you guys in the next one. Cheers.